Let me try that again. I know you heard me in the sanctuary, but you might not have heard me at home. I'm really excited to have you here in our sanctuary again. We're open again. How about that? Woo! Now we're still being cautious. We're still being safe. We still have to wear masks and social distance. But we're able to take that one step closer to what is going to be our next yet to be here as a community. So yes, it's something to celebrate. Thank you. It's, boy, I know everybody's saying this, but it's been quite a year. It has really been quite a year. It is a year that I will never forget. And as I was thinking about and reading about and kind of keeping my finger on the pulse about what's going on in the world, I came across this really interesting New York Times article. Maybe you saw it too. It was a research study about the U.S.'s news media bias. Now, news media bias is nothing new to us, but I thought it was interesting in that they were specifically looking at how we reported on the COVID virus, and that the U.S. news media was actually more biased to what my dear friend BJ used to call awfulizing the situation than other countries. Other, the UK and other news media they were doing a better job of reporting all the facts. I'll put it that way. And the research study was careful to say that there wasn't any fake news going on, but what they were seeing was that we had this propensity to lean into the awful, to lean into the negative. The article also talked about how it wasn't just the media, it wasn't all their fault, that consumers of media sought out the worst news stories. Not me, and probably not you. Yeah, probably all of us did that at one point or another. And so I was really struck as I was looking at that article about the awfulizing of the news. It sort of struck me how it really spoke to cause and effect and our relationship to it. I bet you're with me already where I'm going with this. Most of us have this relationship with cause and effect in that we first enter into that process with from the level of effect. I am about to get schooled with my mic. Excuse me.
Go to your handheld mic, please.
Say that again.
Go to your handheld mic, please.
No, I don't want to. I'll fix this mic. It's fallen off my ear, hasn't it? Yeah. Okay. Where's the mic? Here it is. It's on my chest. All right. I need my hands. So thanks, everybody. So we're talking about this news story. We're talking about the laws of cause and effect. We're talking about how our teaching reflects exactly what this news story talked about, that we enter into our relationship with cause and effect at the level of effect first. We're first introduced to what we're experiencing in the world around us, and we begin to connect with it then. And if we're not mindful about our thoughts, if we're not paying attention, we'll just ride whatever relationship we've been introduced to with whatever we're experiencing right back into the cycle of cause, and we'll help recreate it. But if you're a student of the science of mind, if you're a student of this philosophy, you know that it's more important for us to pay attention to our thoughts and to actively engage in what we are choosing to think and what we're choosing to believe. And so as we look at this relationship with cause and effect, I think it's important to recognize that when we're working with conditions, when we're working with the effects out in the world, it's going to be very easy for us to become colored by what we are seeing and hearing from others and from outside of ourselves. And if we're not intentional, if we're not conscious, we're going to just continue to perpetuate what it is we're hearing and seeing out in the world. An awful lies. Or sometimes, what some folks do is they're in denial, right? They just don't watch the news, they don't pay attention to anything that's going on in the world, and they're in complete denial about whatever conditions might be they're experiencing. And I think there's a sweet spot in between those two places. And speaking of denial, I recently sold my house, sold in Maryland, and so in that process, as I was beginning to sell my house, I decided to enter it very intentionally. I knew what I was going to ask for. It's a 200-year-old farmhouse. I sold it as is. I priced it on the low end of what it'll appraise for, and I knew that that's exactly how I wanted. I wanted a transparent relationship with this process and whoever was going to be buying my house. And I received 2 offers. And one offer was a cash offer, and that means they're going to give you cash, no questions asked, and they'll take your house. It's real easy, real clean, but it was less than my asking price. And the other offer gave me what I was asking, but they needed a conventional loan and an appraisal. And I knew which one I was going to take. I was really clear about what I wanted. I knew what I was asking for, and somebody was offering me what I was asking for. That's the one that I wanted to take, yet I had an advisor that was really wanting me to strongly consider that cash offer. It was simpler. There weren't going to be any more complications. It was going to be really straightforward. And yet I was really clear, and finally in exasperation, that advisor said to me, "You're just in denial." And my answer was, "You bet I'm in denial. I'm in denial that any condition can stand between me and my intentional ask. I'm in denial of the power of that condition to overcome my intention." And so when we're looking at this world of cause and effect, when we are entering into that, we need to pay attention to where we are on that scale of what's happening out in the world and what our clarity is around our intention and what we're trying to create and what we're trying to experience in the world. I was led to my book here, The Essential Ernest Holmes, and it's a great book, and in it he has a little excerpt from a speech that he gave in 1931 to a number of ecclesiastical graduates. And so I want to read this little piece to you. It was as true in 1931 as it is today. The practice of religious science is quite different from the popular concept of it. Those who are unfamiliar with this practice often misunderstand and misinterpret its meaning. It is a popular belief that those who practice this science are a class of people who declare that everything is perfect, when, as a matter of fact, everything in the objective experience of the human race is not perfect, and indeed is far from being perfect. The popular idea of the practice of spiritual science is entirely a misconception. A religious scientist is not one who assures himself that wrong is right, that evil is good, that limitation is freedom, that bondage is liberty, or that sickness is health. He does not claim that our objective experience is an illusion, but he does make this claim that behind the phenomena of human and material experience, behind the slow and persistent process of evolution, there is, as Emerson stated, one mind common to all people. He claims that this mind is perfect and that he has access to it in this mind, capital M. So Ernest Holmes, who's the founder of our movement, is really talking about this idea of perfection, but that perfection really lives at the level of cause. And I want to purport to you that when we are looking at the demonstration, the effect, the condition, this experience that we have, that it is imperfect. And it is imperfect mainly because it's temporary. Because everything is constantly being recreated from that place of cause. And so mind and thought and that creative process that moves in as and through us, it drops down into the level of condition and effect, but it's only there temporarily. We can reaffirm it over and over again if it's something we want to experience. Or sometimes what happens is we don't know better, and we continually reaffirm something we don't want to experience over and over again. Or we can practice this philosophy that empowers us to really be a co-creative force with mind, so that we are creating from newness. We're creating from a fresh place. And so that piece of that speech, I wanted to bring that into our discussion today, because we have been talking about this idea of being open to possibilities. All month we've been looking at being open to possibilities, and we've been playing around with this practice called visioning. And visioning is a practice that allows us to open our minds and hearts to a bigger container than that which we might be understanding right now. I talked a little bit about this idea of creative visualization versus visioning earlier this month, the first week that we started talking about visioning, and I have a little more to say about that. As I want to say that creative visualization is still a very powerful tool that we can use, and it helps us to connect with and to recreate something that we already know, something that we already understand. You know, the easy explanation of creative visualization is the runner, right, who visualizes himself running across, getting across that finish line over and over again until he actually accomplishes what he's visualizing. It's a very powerful tool, but it's kind of like a divine copy machine. You know what you want to create, and you want to reproduce it. And so you come to the divine using that creative visualization process to recreate or reproduce something that's already in existence. And this, my friends, is where visioning is so different. Because in visioning, we are opening ourselves beyond our understanding. We are opening ourselves to this divine database where everything that has ever been created, will be created, is in form right now, comes from. It's consciousness. It's all-encompassing. The best explanation I can have for you is when the Wright brothers, they did not invent aerodynamics. They did not invent flight. They discovered it. And when Newton tripped across gravity, we weren't all floating around off the earth, and then Newton discovered gravity, and suddenly we were grounded, our feet were grounded on the earth. No, gravity always existed before it was discovered. And so when we step into this process of visioning, we are stepping into a process of discovery of things that haven't been discovered yet. And so, my friends, this is a really powerful practice. And that's why we've been bringing it to you all month. We've been talking about the different steps of visioning. We've been looking at how visioning can open us up to an idea of newness. I want to remind you of the questions of visioning. They're very open-ended. So if you're sometimes people just pop into the talk, so I want to make sure we're all on the same page. Those visioning questions are open-ended, and they're a lot like a garden hose, in that you hook your garden hose up to the spigot, you turn the water on, and that water moves freely through the hose. But if it's not moving freely through the hose, there's some obstruction that we have to remove. And so the questions allow us to step into that free-flowing movement of spirit, and even to investigate what's in the way. So the first question that we like to ask is, what's the highest idea of spirit? What is it that spirit wants to see, be, experience by means of me? The second question that we ask is, what is it that I need to embrace? I, as this unique manifestation, What is it that I need to embrace for this highest vision to come through? The third question is, what do I need to release? And when we are looking to what it is to release, it's like looking for the kinks in the garden hose. What is it that I need to get out of the way so that I can have my discovery too of what it is that I'm to do? And I often ask the fourth question, which is there anything else I need to know? Now, there's a fifth question that I think we need to talk about this week, and that is, am I willing? Am I willing? Am I willing to be that place where God shows up as in the form of this visioning? Am I willing to allow that flow to move through me freely? And there's an important distinction between willingness and willfulness. Willfulness is when you are using God and your talents to create something that you already understand, like that divine copying machine that I was talking about earlier. Willingness is an openness that we step into so that we can allow God to move through us freely, so we can allow spirit and creation to create by means of us. And we were meant to be creative. I looked up the definition of creation. It's the action of or process of bringing something into existence. We're not talking about recreating something. We're talking about bringing something into existence. And so as we step into this place of visioning, we really want to ask that question, are we willing? Are we willing to be that place where true transformation happens? It feels to me like what's going on in the world, it's a lot. There's just a lot going on. And it feels to me like we're at a choice point. Do we want to keep recreating what we've experienced in the world? Do we like where we are right now? Or do we want to step into this beautiful practice of divine revelation or visioning so that we can be conduits for something new, something different, something better than what we're experiencing right now? So my invitation to you is, if creative visualization, powerful tool, don't give it up. It really works. But if you want to be on that cutting edge of newness, if you want to be part of something different, I'm going to invite you to really strongly not only consider but practice visioning, because it is this opportunity for us to catch and discover what wants to be known by means of us as creation moves through us. Today and throughout this week, many of our fellow human beings are celebrating things like Passover and Easter. And when I think about Passover, it's that remembrance of freedom from slavery. And Easter is that celebration of transcendence over death. And yet we still struggle with bondage, and we still struggle with death. And here I am talking about this really powerful transformational process called visioning, where we can transcend any condition. And so I think Passover should remind us that we're born free. And Easter should remind us that we never truly die. And visioning can lead us into a practice where we can tap into that true freedom, that place of eternality that we are meant to live from. Are you willing? That's a big question. I know. These are big ideas. So I think the appropriate place to take them this morning is into prayer. So thank you very much. It's really great to have you back in the sanctuary, and let's go ahead and pray. And so I'm going to invite you to take a breath and close your eyes. And know with me that creation is always happening. It is always moving in, as, and through all life. It is that power and that presence that gives of itself so freely and completely all the time. And so in this moment, in this place, as we begin to pray, as we drop into that place of beautiful communion with the One, I know that it is through our surrender that we are empowered. That it is through our surrender that we begin to tap into our true self. That place where God and I are one, where spirit is ever present, where there is only one and no sense of otherness. And so when we step into that place of the highest knowing, let us be willing. Let us be willing to be that beautiful vehicle, vessel, and container for spirit. Let us be willing to be that love that shows up in a situation that needs love. And let us be willing to be that compassion in a situation that needs compassion. And let us be willing to be that place of maybe even firmness and being absolutely clear about our intention, because that's what's needed there. What I know is that when we allow ourselves to simply surrender into that willingness to be used by Spirit for our highest good, that all boats rise, that all needs are met, that each individual is operating at their highest and best so that Spirit can move freely and effortlessly through each one of us. And like that Joel Goldsmith's quote that we looked at earlier, we can be the experience of the absolutely powerful, loving Christ in our own lives and in the lives of others. That power and that presence that knows no sense of otherness, that only knows unity, that only knows creation, that only is willing to simply allow the power and the presence to move through each one of us so that we can know true happiness, so that we can know true union, so that we can know that we never truly die. And it is in glory and gratitude that I speak this word, that I know this highest truth, not only for myself, but for everyone listening to the sound of my voice, that we are indeed about the business of evolution and capturing that highest idea and creating from that highest place. It is with gratitude that I speak this word, that I have this acknowledgement of that power and that presence that is always moving in, as, and through me, that transcends all conditions, that opens me to all possibility. And I simply surrender myself to it over and over and over again. And my heart is filled with love, and I experience that love wherever I go. We simply anchor this in that same power by saying together, and so it is.